Welcome to Grey Primer, a weekly show that's mostly about miniatures. My name is Nick, I'm your host, and in this episode I'm starting an entire month of Necromunda content with Underhive. Throughout November I'm going to be coming in with double content each week, Friday episode, a Saturday episode, and I'm going to be going through as much as I can of Necromunda in that time. Character sets, gangs. I'm going to go through a couple of starter sets to kick the whole month off, starting with Underhive and then coming in tomorrow with Dark Uprising, which is just scenery a palooza. But let's get into Underhive now and see what this looks like. So here it is. This is the 2017 Necromunda Starter Kit Underhive. Brutal gang warfare in the 41st millennium. I was told when I was given this to unbox and build that the rulebook is missing. But that's okay. I mean, what we're going to be using this for is to see what we can pull out of this box to use in the more recent 2019 release of Necromunda, which we'll be looking at tomorrow, Dark Uprising, which does come with its rulebook included. So that's the most important thing. So for now, let's get into this and have a dig through. I also have the gang cards for Goliath and Escher, which are the two gangs. You can see Goliath at the back here. You can see Escher at the front. But without further ado, let's have a quick look. This is a heavy box, by the way. It is a lot skinnier than Dark Uprising, I'll tell you that. This is only, about 2.5 inches deep or something. But some fantastic images on the back here, a breakdown of the two gangs. The female sort of assassins, highly skilled, coming out of the House of Escher, the House of Escher. Why does that sound familiar? Oh, the House of Usher. Oh, right, okay. Anyway, House Escher, which their whole house is all about alchemy and chemistry and building better stims and all of that stuff. And unfortunately, it's left all of their men folk completely withered and just wasted away. And the women are like this sort of warrior caste who have come out of that society and are incredibly proficient hunters and killers. Goliath, they're Vat-grown, hulking muscle beasts. They don't live very long. They live pretty brutal lives as well. But let's get into this and see what this looks like out of the box. So we've got blast radius markers here. Strange color of plastic as well, that bright orange, but you're not going to lose it. And then let's see what we've got. So it looks like some terrain sprues here. This is... I had to check that it wasn't doubled up here because this is heavy duty plastic. Details wise, hopefully you can see sort of the skulls and things on there. Lots of rivets and these aperture doors as well. You can almost imagine the noise they would make. What was it, the movie that used those was Alien? And it had that sort of metal sort of sliding against metal sound. It's incredibly evocative of that film. You know, we can see some over here. We've got look like sort of damaged doors and more door sections, some electronic terminals maybe a floor vent or grate that has been sort of slid across to allow access. This very cool, kind of looks like a skull in a spider web with maybe more skulls underneath it. These sort of weapons crates here, hopefully you can see those, and ammo crates as well. Love those with just these huge rounds in them and grenades and stuff. Love that. And then we're into the actual miniature sprues. So it looks like a duplicate sprue from Goliath, and then a duplicate sprue from Escher. So this is the House Escher sprue first. And you can see some really nice detail across these weapons. I'm imagining there isn't going to be a huge amount of sort of variant builds with this. There's cool hair pieces there as well. And then are these part of the heads or something here? I'm not sure. Some very fine bits there. So I'll just take some care. Oh, my usual levels of care. I'm going to put them together. But yeah, I can't imagine there being a lot of variations in how these are built. And then we get into Goliath here. Lots of hefty looking weapons, chunkier bodies, and almost sort of ogren kind of looking forms. What did I call them before? Human orcs? Something like that. Looking good. And then I have this divider. I'm very grateful that while I didn't get the rulebook, I did get this, which is the instructions for putting them together. And an interesting sort of use of the divider. So this is common now for Games Workshop to include like a sort of a cardstock divider to protect game components or rule books or something like that from these very spiky sprues so that they don't get damaged. And you can see even with this, there is like a small puncture mark on this one just right in center of frame there. So it did its job protecting everything underneath, which is really cool. But anyway, this is a good use of it. Breaks down each of the builds here. And the other side it continues, and then how to put together the scenery. So I'm very lucky that this was included and not part of the rulebook. And then we have all of the tokens and game tiles here, which is going to be really nice. Nice weight to this as well. You can see all these different sort of tokens for events within the game. Empty plastic bags for bits and pieces. We've got these lovely Necromunda sculpted bases. And some very nice dice, tactics cards, and all of the other playing cards. The dice have a nice weight to them. This is quite a hefty bag. And really clean printing on them as well. Lovely stuff. Okay, let's go get these built and I'll be right back. So here it is, fully built, Necromunda Underhive. I say fully built, there's not a huge amount to build in this. Even the big scenery pieces like this, it's just a case of clipping this off the sprue. You've got a couple of support stands here and here, which just glue on very simply. And I think most of the time you'll be spending it just sort of shaving off any of the mold lines. And they'll be fairly significant, but I mean, pretty easy just to sort of trim down and, you know, shave flat. It's not a lot of work. What I will say is, though, they're quite sturdy. They're super sturdy. And you just have to watch your clippers when you're taking these off the sprue. The connecting pieces are significant, and you wouldn't want to risk a fine detail cutter or something on that. You'd want to use something a little bit more sturdy for taking those off. So you'll have those up and running really, really quickly. There are like, I don't know, 5 of those. I have a few of them off camera there. And then we get into maybe the sort of standalone barricades, which are 0 building involved. These just clip straight off the sprue like this. It's already pre-formed. And again, you'll probably spend more time sort of cleaning up mold lines and things than anything else with those. And there's a few of those in this sort of full-size one, which looks like kind of a corroded door. So you probably have a bit of fun there with paint effects. And then you would have the half-size one, which is an even further corroded door. And then these kind of neat little sort of cobbled together barricades. This one's a couple of like what look like bullet scarred metal doors that have been hammered together or welded together in a makeshift kind of barricade. I like this one. And then we have the smaller sort of wall panels. I think these are maybe doors. Yeah, these are doors, sorry. This one's got this really neat aperture, very reminiscent of the doors inside the Nostromo in the Alien movie. And then this other one is got this, it's almost like a submarine door. It's got this release handle and some lovely details throughout these vents at the bottom, the cool little window here, the very heavy duty hinge mechanism, and then this nice little, what looks like a sort of an emergency light. So I like that one as well. And let me see what else. So we got these little this random sort of tentacle coming out of a pushed back hatch, which is kind of cool. That involved glue. So there you go. There's a bit more construction. Really need a maybe objective marker or something. Saw that in the sprue. These really cool crates. This one's full of ammo. And then on the flip side, you can actually run it like this. And what you can do is there's a little pile of grenades. You can pop those in there. Pop the lid on. And then put that out onto the playing surface. So when opened, it's full of grenades. Or on this side, full of regular ammo. So that's a nice touch. And you can do the same with this one. You've got the firearms inside. And then blank on the other side. And the lid fits snugly on either. And then some of these other little details to personalize your battlefield. They may serve a further function than ornamentation, but they are kind of nice looking. And then finally onto the minis. So let's look at the Goliath gang first. And these are so cool. Like, these are incredibly robust looking dudes. They got these huge guns. There's augmentation, huge grenades. This one's about to throw a grenade as well. They've got nice sort of armor plate. You can accessorize some of them with combat knives. This one's got a fantastic grin on his face. I mean, look at that. Look at that pure joy in what he's doing. And I love the expressions. Absolutely love how these guys have worked out. They go onto the larger 32mm base. They're chunky looking fellas, so it's to be expected. This one here has the massive mallet over his shoulder and this great sort of combi weapon here, what looks like some kind of revolver with maybe a melta on top of that. But this cigar, I don't know if you can see it there, just see it poking out of his mouth. So this is the single smallest piece I've ever glued to a miniature. That is actually on the sprue, that tiny cigar. And you have to clip it off and get rid of a mold line. Stick it into the sort of the gap in his face and glue it in place. I've never, ever dealt with such a tiny little component in a miniature. It's just something else. I can only think that it was somebody at Warhammer having a joke, because it's just bananas for something that small. I'm just wondering how many people who have built these have just lost that cigar and just like, I'll live without it, it's fine. Great motion in this one. So I'm going to look at this one here. So he's kind of got this. Looks like the weapon is sort of connected to this arm piece here. Looks like it weighs a ton. Doesn't seem to bother him though. Yeah, it's looking pretty great. Super wide stance on these bases. So there's no way you would fit this onto a 25mm. Not with a lot of overhang on those feet. They're really got these full-on rock star stance. I mean, this could just easily be a guitar here instead of a gun. I mean, there's great detail across all of these minis. There's great sort of fabric creases and things. You can really see it on the legs of this one. You can see the amazing sort of head sculpts. I'm liking the shoulder armor as well. These smaller pauldrons. And some accessorizing available there as well. And then the final one of the Goliaths. Would you look at this weapon? Imagine the weight in that thing. And he's probably swings it around like it weighs nothing. But a really nice looking gang. I think they paint up wonderfully. There's a lot of weaponry to paint there as well. There's a lot of different sort of textures in the fabrics and their armor. So that's the Goliath gang, and they look really good. I like them. They're almost sort of ogre-ish scale, but maybe not quite as big as that. Let me see if I can find an ogre. So here he is compared to a Blood Bowl ogre, and really there's not much in it. You know, certainly not much height-wise. And sure, the ogre is chunkier, but that's a pretty chunky ogre anyway. So there you go, very interesting. And then we're on to the Escher. And really nice sculpts. Some really cool weapons there, like a very much sort of scaled down, lighter weight weapons. You've got these interesting thin daggers, short swords maybe, accessorizing around the waist there with grenades and stuff. Some nice motion in them, some really nice strong poses. And here's another one. I like the movement in them. I like that sort of sense of action, and there's a grace to it as well. There's some really nice details in the Escher minis, like the likes of these, decent accessories here. I'm not even sure what this thing is for, this jar. I mean, they are sort of chemists and alchemists, so maybe there's something in there. I like the drooped forward sling on the rifle. I like the way the hair is sort of being, it's amazing, this sort of alternative Mohican look. They're wearing amazing platform boots. I mean, the way this this boot is spiked, it kind of reminds me of one of the late 80s, early 90s Blood Bowl teams. I think it was the Elves had these little spikes coming out of their boots, but very, very cool. I'm not sure how tactically practical it is to be running around in these platform boots, but hey, they're making it work. I do like as well, they all seem to have these headpieces, the comms units, and again, some fantastic hair on display there. There is something very Mad Max about some of these. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that sort of design, that apocalyptic kind of punk look. This pose is very cool. Incredibly dramatic and sort of cinematic looking. Yeah, that's awesome. And some of these barrels, all the barrels are drilled, as far as I know, but some of them are very tiny. So just bear that in mind. You're going to need to be careful. If you decide to drill the barrels, you could absolutely leave them undrilled if you don't want to risk that. This is a slightly different sort of sculpt here, with the rifle kind of held on the hip. This huge, electro whip or something, I'm not sure what that is. And again, magnificent hair. And then this insane sort of flamer unit here that actually is puffing out a bit of flame or smoke there, so that's a interesting thing to paint, I'm sure. And then it runs through to the hose, right back here to the fuel unit. And I think the fuel unit's actually strapped to this person's arm. So that's a really interesting way of carrying a flamethrower. And then the final one just couldn't be cooler, really. Like the walk is just it's such a cool pose. Sunglasses on, sniper rifle over the shoulder. The whole swagger going on. That's just savage looking. I absolutely love that one. I think one of my favorite miniatures of the whole box. But that's it, it's two really good gangs there, the Goliath and the Escher. I don't think you'd be disappointed with those. The scenery is very limited, but this has what you need to play Underhive. It's got the two gangs, it's got a few bits and pieces of scenery, it's got the playmat, it's got all the pieces and stuff that you need. It just lacks perhaps the atmosphere of being in this sort of multi-level hive world that I think Dark Uprising is going to bring tomorrow, and that is just unfortunately lacking here. But I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something from it. Please like, share, and subscribe if you did. I am back again tomorrow, like I say, with Dark Uprising, which is the most recent Necromunda starter box. And I'm very much looking forward to getting that in front of you. But until then, take care and bye-bye.